morning. Oh, y'all got to try that again. Good morning. Thank you. I'm supposed to be inspirational at 8:30 in the morning on a Monday. That means y'all got to help. Okay? I have had my caffeine, but maybe not enough. So let's go for that. Thank you for that very kind introduction. Sometimes it's kind of funny to hear about myself because I think of myself as a girl from Pontotoc, Mississippi. I don't think about myself as somebody who's got 25 years of work experience because, you know, that means I'm old. And then that doesn't go over too well. Especially the last couple of weeks, I was telling the folks as I was sitting in the back that I had a little project for my husband and myself this summer. We built a patio in our backyard, all by our lonesomes. We hauled 9 cubic yards of gravel over the last couple of weeks. Do you think my bones are hurting? Yes. So I want to talk with y'all today about being your best self and managing yourself. And so it was really funny when Daryl Easley asked me to do this, and he kind of sent me a little email and described the topic to me and all that. This is what happened to my brain. It sort of exploded. And I said, well, you know, that's a little bit of territory to cover. And how am I going to cover that much territory with a whole bunch of people? And so all these words started coming into my brain and out my ears and everything else. And it was just really hard to decide what direction I wanted to take. Because, you know, I really, you know, love ideas and I love kind of passing all this stuff around, and I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I could do this. Well, oh, I could do that. Or, oh, I could do something else. And so I finally just gave up. And I started asking people around me, if you had to talk about this topic, what would you talk about? And out of those conversations came these things. The first thing that I'd want to know is, well, how can you be a good manager if you don't manage anybody, except maybe yourself? A lot of times in those conversations, the attitude came up. And it wasn't so much positive or negative attitude. It was how you approach things. Then I got a lot of questions about, what do you mean managing yourself? Does that mean you make a list? How many of you, by the way, are list makers? Do not be ashamed. Raise your hand. Okay. Here's the true test, if you're one of my people. How many of you, if you have a list and you do something that is not on the list, you add it to the list and you check it off? Thank you. We're in a group all our own, aren't we? And we are very, very special. Yes? And all the people around us go, yes, they're special. Right? Right? But you know, it didn't happen if you didn't write it down and make it on a list. And I tell you what, having the list on the phone is not the same as putting it on a piece of paper and getting that of checking off that list, right? It's just a thing, okay? But I think managing yourself is a little bit more than making a list. So we'll talk about that too. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between managing and leading. Because whether y'all want to believe it or not, you're all leaders. You don't have to be president of something to be a leader. And here's another question I asked the table that I was sitting at. I was like, how is the university functioning without all of you today? How many offices are actually like, we're just going to close down? See, I got a religion right back here. There we go. I am quite sure there were some department heads that were like, you're going where? Now, how do I answer the phone? Okay. So we're gonna talk about these questions today. But here's the first thing I want you to remember. If size mattered, the elephant would be the king of the jungle. We got a lot of elephants on campus, don't we? We do. We do. But for today, y'all are the lions with that sexy mane of hair, okay? What I want to do today is reframe how you think about managing and leading. And I want to reframe how you think about what it is you do on a daily basis. Because after all, I'm supposed to be inspirational, right? It's Monday morning. We're supposed to be. So, John Maxwell says, true leadership is not based on position or rank. Leadership is action, not position. What does that mean? Leadership is action, not position. I think all of us have worked with and for people who couldn't make a decision to get out of a brown paper bag. I see some nodding, yeah. We have all done that, okay? We have all been there. So where did the true leadership come from? It came from somebody else, right? I want you to think about that somebody else. And we're going to start with this. I'm not a manager. I would imagine, if I had to hazard a guess, there's probably a majority of people in this room who have said, I don't manage anybody. I'm not a manager. I don't qualify as a manager. That's not my job title. That's a myth. You can say you only work by yourself or with a small group. That's fine. I work with a lot of students who say they do not have leadership or managerial qualities because they think that they have to be president of something. No. How many of you, if you see something that needs to be done, you just do it? Everybody in this room, raise your hand. Come on. Whether it's at work or at home, you see something that needs to be done, you do it. Now, I'm sure we do have a few people in the room who cannot seem to figure out how to pick up their dirty socks. I will not talk about what gender that could be. And somehow can't see the dirty socks lying right next to the laundry basket. I get some nodding over here, yes. Okay. But you don't have to be president of something to be a leader or to be a manager. Okay? You don't. Myth. I only supervise students. They don't care. Au contraire, my friends. How many of you have children or grandchildren? Most of you. Okay. Now, I am not a parent. I was never that lucky, or never that unlucky, depending on which way you want to look at it. But I do have nieces and nephews, and I do have a lot of children in my life. For some reason, I ended up being the godmother of more children than I could ever birth. I think maybe it's my friend's way of just playing a joke on me. I'm not real sure. I'm really hoping I don't find out. Okay? But the one thing that I have observed, because when I was younger, my mother babysat, which meant that I babysat. So one thing I have observed is that children watch, don't they? Woo! And when they are 2 and 3 years old, they do everything you do, don't they? And they always pick up on that one word to repeat that you do not want them to repeat. You know, it's like a magnet, isn't it? It's the craziest thing I've ever seen, but every child I've ever met picks up on that one word. You do not want them to know. What do you think students are doing to you? If they work in your office, many of our students are first-generation college students. If they're working in your office, don't you think they're watching how you act when you answer the phone? Don't you think they're watching with how you interact with your supervisors, with your customers who may come into your office, or with other students? Don't you think they're watching? They are. I can promise you that. So even though you may not be their direct supervisor, or maybe if you are, they're watching. Some of you in here clean our buildings, thank God. Some of you in here mow the grass, and although the grass mowers, I do need to talk to y'all because y'all always manage to mow the grass behind Hull Hall. The one morning I could sleep in when I was a student. We need to talk about that. But they watch if you take pride in what you do. You're modeling behavior for them. No pressure. No pressure, right? Every single thing that you do, what are you teaching them? You know, we keep saying that we have a lot of problems with this generation. Well, where does the modeling start? It starts at home with parents and all that, but then it graduates to here. So folks, I hate to tell you, when you're working in an educational setting, you are an educator, whether or not you ever step inside a classroom. Get that through your head. You are an educator, whether or not you ever step inside a classroom to teach anybody anything. The students are thirsty for knowledge. What kind of knowledge are you providing? Another myth. My coworkers and I have a real good system. We don't want to mess it up. We don't need to change anything. Okay, that's fine. You know, some of these systems that we come up with over time are very efficient. You get them done, you go. But let me ask you this. If we don't change on occasion or improve on occasion, what happens? Yeah, things get stale. Then all of a sudden that really efficient system does not stay very efficient. It becomes cumbersome. The folks in our graduate school figured that out. The last couple of years, they've been working on transferring, 20, 30 years worth of student records that were paper into digital. A couple of my MBA students actually worked on that project, and they're like, all we do all day is scan papers all day. Now, paper system is great until it becomes not so great. How many of you remember, and this is going to date me, how many of you remember the bag phones? The first, yeah, weren't those things some walking bricks? I remember when my sister got one, we thought she was in some high cotton. She got one of those things. It was this big old thing you had to put on your shoulder, and and she could had the little curly thing that went down into, and we laugh at it now. She was also a key puncher. Some of you in the room will not know what that is, but others of you will be like, yes, we know what a key puncher is. But now we have these little bitty things called iPhones and Androids. And there is more technology in there than we had when we sent people to the moon. Actually, you know those funny little cards that we give people that when they open them up and they play a song? That's more technology than they had when we sent people to the moon. Wrap your brain around that for just a second. So imagine where we'd be if we still had brick phones. So you can't be afraid to innovate. Now, I'm not saying change for change's sake. That's not it. But what I am saying is, don't be afraid to change. Now, I don't know if any of you went to hear Dr. Bonner whenever she came for her speech for provost. I actually used to work for Dr. Bonner at University of Alabama. I know her pretty well. And I feel very fortunate to know her because you talk about a wonderful, passionate, and compassionate leader. That is Judy Bonner. But saying to her, we've always done it this way, is a great way to kill your career. It's a great way to kill your career. Folks in Mississippi hate change. I figured that out moving back here. After living away from Mississippi for so long and moving back here, and I'm like, oh yeah, got it. Your mama and them did it that way, so we're going to do it this way. Well, Dr. Bonner's not like that, so I'll give you a heads up. But again, it's not change for change's sake. It's appropriate change. And it's moving forward change. And that's what you want for Mississippi State. Okay, last myth. My attitude doesn't matter. It doesn't impact anybody but me. I'm going to tell you a little story about this one. Because first off, it's really funny. And second of all, it's like a parable. It is unbelievable. So right after I left Mississippi State, I went to work in a small university in Northwest Missouri. It's called Northwest Missouri State. And it was my first professional job, you know, so I'm trying real hard, you know, dress up every day, you know, make a good impression, all that good stuff. And I ended up on a committee where my boss's boss was chair of the committee. She was the dean of students, and her name was Denise. And I think she figured out pretty quick that I was really green. And I think that may have been part of the reason she picked me for the committee was because I was young and dumb. And she figured I needed to learn something. So I actually got to know her fairly well and got to spend some time with her. Well, I also got to spend some time with her admin, and her admin's name was Mary. Mary, quite contrary. That was always a big joke between us. And I just loved her. She had the greatest sense of humor. She was so good at rolling with the flow. And believe me, when you work in the Dean of Students office, who's here for Dean of Students? Anybody? Okay, good. We can talk about them. If you work in the Dean of Students office, you really got to roll with the flow because you never know what has happened overnight and what you're going to walk into, right? Because Dean of Students handles fraternities and sororities, which that's a story in and of itself. I don't know how to do it. Handle residential life, all these, you know, security sometimes, those kinds of things. So Mary and I, you know, kind of got along and we'd have a good time. So I had a coworker named Liz. Now, Liz, God bless her, I finally figured out, just sort of felt a little entitled. And if somebody just didn't do what she wanted to, she would just ream them over the coals. And so I was very careful around Liz because she scared me. I'll just be honest, she scared me. Now, we came to a time of year when, you know, fraternities and sororities were having issues. And then we discovered that our dean was also going through menopause. And some people found that out the hard way. Fortunately, I was not one of them. So Mary could pretty well gauge when Denise was having a bad day. You know, if the fraternities had called her out at 3 o'clock in the morning, or you know, if there had been an attempted suicide, or if she was just not feeling well, whatever. If I needed to meet with Denise, Mary would go, and I'd be like, And I'd head back to my building, very thankful that I was not having to be in the same building as the dean. Well, remember I mentioned Liz liked to yell at people? She made a mistake of yelling at Mary more than once. What do you think happened when Liz would come over and need to see Denise and Denise was having a bad day? Sure, go right on in. Hello to the lion's den. And then she'd be sitting out in the front office like, doo, 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 doo. I'm having a good day. Da, 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 da. That happened to Liz all over campus, and she couldn't understand why. And she kept asking me, well, Angela, why doesn't that happen to you? And I'm muttering under my breath, well, I'm nice to people. I don't know what your problem is, but I'm nice to people. My mama taught me to be nice. Your attitude doesn't impact anybody but you? What do you think? How many of you have actually walked in an office and you just felt like, okay, let me turn right back away? We've all done it. Down at the driver's license bureau, probably. Okay. We've all done it. We've all felt that. But isn't it nice to walk into an office where somebody says, good morning, how can we help you today? Y'all going to be talking about customer service later. My students that work for me, they think I have absolutely lost my mind because I always tell them in training, smile when you answer the phone. It's a very simple thing. It's a very easy thing. And they look at me like, did you just grow a second head? I'm like, no. If you smile when you answer the phone, it puts you in a good attitude and it lets them know that you're being helpful. Folks, these are all myths, isn't it? You are a manager. You are a leader. It is about you. Let's keep talking about attitude for just a second. Isn't it the first thing people notice? Remember, like I said, you walk in the office and you're like, Okay. If you've got a spare piece of paper and a pen, I want you to pull those out. You're not going to have to share unless you just want to. Now, I want you to just take about a minute, and I want you to think about these first two bullets. I want you to think about your worst supervisor and coworker and your best supervisor, coworker, and just jot down some traits of these people. So you're already laughing. You're already laughing. And I want you to just say the first things that come to your mind. Okay? The traits that are best and worst. Like separate them by columns though, you know. And while you're doing that, I'm going to tell you about my worst supervisor. I will not tell you where this is from to protect the lives of the guilty. But I worked at a university some years back. Different dean of students. This was not the one going through menopause. This was, well, I don't know. She might have been, now that I think about it. But anyway, so she was the kind that would be very kind to you in her office. if there had been a problem or something that she had noticed that there was an issue with or whatever. And our office was actually in the student union. It was next to the post office and the bookstore. It was a very active building, small campus. As soon as she was done talking to you in her office, she would escort you out to the lobby, just sort of still chit-chatting, and then all of a sudden turn around and say, "You are the biggest idiot on the planet. I hate that I hired you." I mean, she would be pounding on the furniture, pounding, screaming at the top of her lungs. And you're like, okay, you are Medusa, and I'm about to turn into stone. But she was not happy until you were reduced to tears. When she left, we burned her in effigy. I kid you not. We made a little, doll, like my height doll. We burned that sucker. That was so therapeutic. That was my worst supervisor. And I lasted under that for 3.5 years. Got to the point where I couldn't sleep at night because I would be sitting in bed cross-legged with a pillow across my chest, rocking back and forth and crying all night long. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Needless to say, I'm very careful about where I go to work now. It only takes one. Okay, so I just want you to shout out some things. What are some traits of your worst supervisor? Controlling? Moody. Ooh. Arrogant. Bully. Micromanager. Oh yeah, we got some good words going around in here. This whole area over here is silent. Have y'all noticed that? They have decided that I have lost my mind. Ooh, yeah, okay. Do what? Ineffectual. Ooh, that's a 10-penny word right there. Selfish. All right, what are some traits? Okay, let's go positive now. What are some of the traits of your best coworker or supervisor? Respectful, empathetic, supportive. I'm sorry? Team player. Hey, something from over here. Understanding. I love it. Okay, understanding. All right. Now I want you to take another look at your list. Another look at your list. If you really had to be brutal about yourself, which traits from both columns do you display? Now, I'm not going to ask you to yell that out. And then I've got a little question here. What about information hoarders? Do you know what I'm talking about when I say that? These people exist no matter what environment you're in. It could be corporate life, it could be education, it could be Sunday school. They make you feel like you got to pay $50 to get a telephone number that would normally be free, right? I have a feeling that they think, having all this information makes my job secure. It makes me a little more helpful, or it makes me a little more powerful, or it protects me against somebody. I think they think that they're doing a good thing. But if you deal with an information hoarder, what really is your attitude about them? And let me do anything I can to bypass them just so I don't have to deal with them? Was that pretty much it? Yeah. So I think in reality, people who do this want one thing, but their behavior guarantees another. And if you don't know anybody who does this, it might just be you. You might just want to do a gut check on that one. Okay? I'm just saying. As you're looking at those traits about yourself, and we talked about this a little earlier, what about we've always done it this way? I can't impact change because nobody will let me. Well, who says? I have yet to find somebody in my office that will stop me when I go to clean the kitchen. Or to straighten up the storage closet. Because, I don't care what my title is. If I see something that needs to be done, I do it. And I tell my students as they come into the office, look, one of the first things I'm going to ask you to do is clean out the fridge because I've done it the last 3 times and I'm tired of it. You are not too good to clean out the office fridge. And that's one of the first lessons I really try to teach somebody. You're an MBA student, yeah, you're probably going to make some good money in your life, but that doesn't mean you can't clean the toilet at home or anywhere else. Okay? So we've always done it this way. Think about something. Think about your own traits that you have circled or thought about. Think about one thing where you work, where you can really make an impact, because that's where you become valuable. What is that one thing? Now, people who know me know that I don't mind change. I like stirring the pot. I am not shy about stirring the pot. Especially if I feel like the pot hadn't been stirred in 20 years. That doesn't bother me at all. I am related to my daddy in that I am stubborn. And I inherited the night gene for stubbornness from him. I think I went through that line twice. I am indeed like a bulldog because when I bite into something, that's it. I'm chewing on it a while. Ask my husband. Okay? He's been with me 26 years. I reckon he'll be with me a few more. Just because you've always done it one way, just because you've always kept paper records, doesn't mean that you always have to keep paper records. So think about it. All right. Keeping on with attitude, but going to something a little more towards you, because you started your little list here. I saw this quote from Brian Tracy, and I cracked up. So I'm sure the people in my office were like, what in the world is she laughing at now? I'm kind of loud in case you hadn't guessed. And she's like, yeah, I can tell. And so, whenever I have a reaction to something, I just react and I just go with it. And so I saw this little line here, and it's, the starting point of maturity is the realization nobody is coming to the rescue. And then I thought, well, now, if I include that, that's going to sound depressing. But guess what? We're all big boys and girls, and we can't go through life with an 8th grade attitude. Well, she did this to me. She touched me. Mom, she touched me. How many adults do you know that really kind of have that? We all have them in our lives, I promise. These are what I call the drama people. Yes? And on Facebook, I at least get to hit delete, right? In real life, it's not always so easy, especially if they're a coworker, right? Or, God forbid, your supervisor. But it's back to attitude, how you approach it, how you look at it, how you think about it, what you decide to do. Flip it around. Flip it around. So I started thinking, okay, what are some tips that I can give to people about this whole thing? So I didn't want to do anything super academic because, we all know that's boring. I wanted to do something that was kind of fun and would make sense, which you never come across in an educational institution, right? So how many of you go to Lifehack? It's a great little website. It's got all these really fun things, but they have this little list here of managing yourself and making it count. And I just thought I would share these because in my mind, they really, summed up a whole lot of stuff that I wanted to say. So the first one is live by your values. So that means if you value and respect other people, then you treat other people with value and respect. Now, I know in the current world that we live in, everybody's talking about Christian values versus non-Christian values and all this other kind of stuff. I'm not getting that existential about it. I'm talking about what you personally value of how you treat other people. Live by your values. And I think some people speak one thing but do another. That's called being hypocritical. So are you speaking one thing, doing another? Or are you truly living the values that you say you live? We could do a whole hour just on that one, don't you think? Yeah. Okay. The second one is speak up. This one I think is the hardest one, but it's also one of the most important ones. Because how many of us, something happens, we don't say anything to the person that did the something happens, and we go over here and yeah to somebody else? I'm getting a lot of agreement. Yeah. We all do it. We all do it. Let me tell you about a personal experience of mine. So, for quite a few years, my mother was very ill. She passed away Christmas Eve of 2012, which was exactly the way she wanted it, by the way. She was very happy. So, Christmas is her favorite holiday. I mean, it was the thing. But for the 5 years prior to that, she'd been very ill. And so my sister and I lived in Tuscaloosa at the time. My sister lived in Tupelo. My parents were in Pontotoc. So my sister and I would alternate weekends going to my parents' house, and we would work like mad. We would clean, scrub, cook. My mother was on 15 different prescriptions. So we were doling out prescriptions like we were drug dealers left and right. I mean, it was unbelievable. Well, my mother was never a person who was very sure of herself. And she kind of expected you to read her mind as to what she wanted. And my sister would totally agree with this. And so I would ask my mother, I would know my mother would want me to do something. Mother, do you want me to move the Kleenex box from here to here? It didn't matter. She said, oh, no, honey, don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. Because, I did not go through the line when I was being made about reading minds. I can't do that. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I just figured you wanted it that way, but if you don't, that's cool. 2 days later, I get a phone call from my sister. Now, you were supposed to move that Kleenex box from point A to point B. I'm like, but she told me not. Well, now you know that she's going to tell you the exact opposite of what she wants you to do. So just do it. Well, second or third time this happened, I was like, all right, this is enough. I deal with enough in my job on a daily basis. I am not doing this whenever I go to visit my parents. So I sat down and I had a talk with my mother. And I said, Mother, why aren't you telling me exactly what it is you want me to do? Well, I don't want to hurt your feelings. Well, it's not going to hurt my feelings to ask me to move the Kleenex box from point A to point B. What does hurt my feelings is when my sister calls me up and tells me that you have tattled and that you are unhappy with something I did. That hurts my feelings, right? Oh, well, I didn't think about it that way. I said, well, please think about it that way. And if I get another phone call, we're going to have a little come to Jesus meeting, and it's not going to be fun for anybody because you know my temper is just like my daddy's, right? You birthed me, you should know. And then I called my sister, and I said, look, two of us got to get on the same page here. I am not a mind reader. You obviously went through that line because you have figured this out. I did not. Do not expect me to. We need to get on the same page, and if Mother asked us not to do something, not do it, and that way she's got to figure out that she's got to be explicit with her needs. Well, that was the toughest thing in the world for my sister because, she's the mind reader. She can do this. But it reduced the incidences of my sister calling me up going, now why didn't you move the Kleenex box from point A to point B? I say all this because I think it's in our minds that if we say something to somebody, that it's going to just explode and be a mean situation or whatever. And y'all, 90% of the problem only happens in our head. All those scenarios that we run in our mind about, oh my gosh, okay, now how do I need to word this and how do I need to... You don't have to do it that way. That's hyping it up more than it's worth. Just say, when that happened, I really got upset. Can we work together to fix that? Is that so hard? But for a lot of us, it really is hard. But folks, if you don't speak up for yourself, who else will? Think about it that way. Honor your word. Yeah, I'll be there. No, I don't show. Okay. Ooh, when you ask for responsibility, expect to be held accountable. I just started a couple of new graduate assistants in my office. And I gave each of them several projects because I feel like it's part of my role to teach these students how to manage a process, how to report back and communicate, because what I find is that a lot of students don't know how to appropriately communicate. They don't know that they need to get back and give status reports. It goes back to me not being a mind reader. I don't expect them to read my mind. I certainly am not going to read theirs. So I hold them accountable. I've got two of my students that are going to be completely redoing my website. I have put it all on them. Here are the things that we have to meet. This is university criteria, but anything outside of that, you work with it. Here's the university system people that you need to make sure that you're working with and communicating with. You are the project managers. Will I hold them accountable? You bet. That's my website. They're going to graduate. I don't. Okay. Don't expect others to trust you if you aren't willing to be trustworthy. I know people who do nothing but just ask one question after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. It's like they're grilling me on the stand, like I'm a witness in a trial. But then when I ask them a question, they just turn around and keep asking me questions. That's not exactly comfortable. If you do something, you say you're going to do it. Create good habits, reject bad ones. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. My list makers, where are y'all again? Raise your hands. I love y'all. We'll talk after. Okay. If you don't make a list, discover it. It's awesome. But what are some other good habits, you know? Getting to work 5 minutes before you're supposed to so that everything is turned on and ready. Making sure the books are balanced. And I'm not real sure how all the folks who do our lawn maintenance on campus do this, but it's like every single blade of grass is like the same height. Can y'all teach my husband that, by the way? Okay. Create good habits. How our campus looks, how your office looks, can really determine somebody's attitude about who we are. Think about it. When you're out on the road and you really need some gas for the car, what kind of gas station do you stop at? Now, sometimes you just have to stop at the only one available because you're in the middle of the desert. I get it. But if you had to choose between one that the door looks like it's falling off and there's bars everywhere versus one that is well lit and looks clean, which one are you going to stop at? Especially if you're a female. Right, okay. Somebody got into a bad habit. Have a good work ethic. There are days when I struggle with this. You know, I really feel like I'm a very productive person, but there are some times when I'm just like, you know, this really could have been a Saturday or a Sunday for as much as I have produced because it's just not happening today. But what about a good work ethic? Think about the students in your office. Think about all that. Be nice. Be nice. Be self-disciplined. And folks, I think that even comes down to what we wear. How you present yourself. And it doesn't matter if you're in a uniform or not, but if the shirt needed ironing this morning, did you iron it? Or did your spouse iron it? My husband is actually the better ironer in our family because he grew up in a military family and he actually served time in the military. My ironing does not meet his specs, which is totally okay with me because I hate ironing. But how many times do you see students showing up to class practically in pajamas? Or, God forbid, those Nike shorts with the extra super large sweatshirt over it and the UGG boots. I don't get the UGG boots. Now, I was here in the 80s with bangs up to here, so I really can't say too much, but I did not wear UGG boots. I have known people in my life that showed up to work like that. I instituted dress guidelines for my MBAs because my first year in the MBA program, students were showing up in their shorts, you know, down to here. And how you keep your britches up like that, I had no idea. But anyway, t-shirts, ball caps, flip-flops. And there was this one guy, I just had to draw the line because he had the hairiest feet known to mankind. And I'm like, this is it. I am not doing hairy feet anymore. He was maybe my height. That boy had more hair than any creature on God's green earth. I don't know how he did it. He must have been the hottest human being. I don't know. I don't know how he handled the heat, which is probably why he wore big baggy shorts and flip-flops. But after that, I was like, no, we're not going to do hairy feet anymore. We're going to dress mostly appropriately here. And it's amazing because the attitude in class has changed. the faculty members are telling me that the students are taking class much more seriously than they used to. And they think it's because of the way we're making them dress. Unintended consequence, but I can handle that. Don't be a victim or a martyr. We all have one of these in our lives. Oh, I have to do 15 things today. Oh my God, how am I going to get it all done? Well, quit complaining and get to going. And God forbid that you try to take one of the 15 things away, because then they get mad at you. Right? If you're not laughing, you're it. We all have them. And if we don't have them at work, we sure got them in the family. We are in the South, for Pete's sake. If we don't have a martyr in the family, you must be a damn Yankee. And that's all I can say about that one. It wouldn't be a holiday if they didn't have to do every single thing and I just didn't get any help at all. Even though they just made one dish. Yeah. Keep healthy and take care of yourself. And I think a lot of people think that means working out and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, it can. I mean, y'all could have been helping me haul gravel the last couple of weeks. But I think in my mind, and this is my counseling background coming out, I think in my mind it's more, what's up here? Going back to your attitude, going back to how you approach things, how you choose to see things. You can choose to see that a car accident is a real bad thing, or you can say, you know what, I was in a car accident, but I'm alive and I'm going home tonight. It's all in how you look at it. So I think that actually has some things to do there. Y'all hanging in with me? Only got a couple more to go. And you're like, but you're staying on the slides for 20 minutes. Okay. I taught a class one time about the difference between management and leadership. And I thought I would include some of these notes because we're talking about yourself, what you do, how you look at things, how you do things, and honestly, managers and leaders have to do that too. But managers and leaders are two very different things. Managers are more about the process. Leaders are more about the vision. Where are we going? One of the first things that I was tasked to do whenever I started at the MBA program was, would you please get us somewhere? Now, when that's coming out of your dean's mouth, you're like, well, that's real specific. Thank you so much for that information. But what I said was, sure, we'll get us somewhere. We'll go somewhere. We'll do something. I don't know what it's going to be, but we're going to do it. But I'm basically an office of one. I share an admin with a couple other people, so I can't just throw tons of stuff on her. I can't, give my graduate assistants all kinds of, student information and stuff like that, because that's sort of confidential, and FERPA and all that other good mess. You got to be careful. So I get to do a lot of both of these. I bet a lot of you get to do a lot of both of these too. If I had to hazard a guess, and I bet every single one of you do who, what, where, when, and how, and why. Like I said, I'm not sure how the university's open today with all of you here. Do you inspire trust? And you don't necessarily have to be anybody special in your own mind to inspire trust? Are you approachable? Are you the person that people can come to and talk to? Do y'all know why I picked my major, psychology, other than the fact that I was failing in business? Because I was. One of my very close friends in my dorm, I was living in Hull Hall at the time, Section C. I was living in Hull Hall, second floor. And I was complaining to my friend Constance. What a perfect name for her. What a constant friend. She was in my wedding. And I'm like, Constance, I'm so unhappy. I hate my major. I don't understand my economics professor. And she said, Angela, why are you majoring in business? And I said, well, that's really the only thing I knew to major in because I don't, nobody in my family had ever been to college before, and so I didn't know. She said, have you ever noticed that everybody in the dorm comes to you to talk to about their problems? And I said, well, I'm just being a good friend. She said, you do know you can make money doing that, right? What a revelation. I had no idea. And that's how I discovered psychology. So thank you to the psychology department and the counselor ed department here on campus for educating me. And now for my story. I thought this might be a good way to wrap things up. I just said I'm a first-generation college student. I'm from Pontotoc, Mississippi. Anybody know where that is? It's up close to Tupelo, yeah. Kind of go to Tupelo, take a left turn. Don't blink. My dad graduated from high school. My mother made it out of 7th, 8th grade. I am by far the youngest of 3 children. I was the oops baby. My sister is my closest sibling, and she's 11 years older than I am. And I decided that staying in Pontotoc was not something I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I needed to do something. And my parents said, well, you'll go to community college and you can live at home. And I'm like, no, that ain't going to work. I need to go a little further away than that. Because I was the class geek. I went to one class reunion only, and they all said, wow, you talk. We didn't know you talked. And they told my husband, they're like, she talks? What happened? And he said, well, college was very good for her. I discovered my voice at Mississippi State. And so I applied to school behind my parents' back. There was a very wonderful lady. Anybody in here in the financial aid office? Oh, darn. Okay. There was this wonderful lady who worked here at the time. Her name was Barbara. And she was at our high school fair, college fair. And I latched on to her like nobody's business. She probably got tired of my phone calls. Lord have mercy. I was one of those, I called every day. I even called her to ask about the dorms and parking permits and stuff because I just didn't know, and we didn't have internet. And so I didn't have access to the phone numbers and all that other kind of stuff for the university. Hers was the only phone number I had, and I'm quite sure she wanted me to burn it. But she got me here. Now, when my parents found out what I had done, they pitched one more hissy because college was not something they understood. It was a frightening thing, and they wanted me to stay at home. And my comment to them was, you never let me date when I was in high school. There's nobody here that's going to marry me. I'm the class geek. You have kept me at home and sheltered me so much that I am smothered. You have to let me go. Now, that's pretty brave for a 17-year-old. But that should also tell you how desperate I was. And I came here, and Lord, this was the biggest place I'd ever been in my life. And we had maybe 15,000 students at the time, maybe. And I discovered learning in a way that I'd never discovered before. And it made me different than my family. It makes it weird going home sometimes because they don't understand what my experiences are. I was trying to tell my dad what I was doing this morning. And he said, "Good luck, baby, good luck." That's all he knew to say. But that's all I needed him to say. But while I was here, there were some very kind people who recognized just how dumb I was about life in general. And they decided to take care of me. First lady's name was Wanda Potts. And she was the lead administrative assistant for economics, finance, and applied legal studies. That was where my first job was. Carol Young is there now. We're losing her in June to retirement. She's so happy. We are not. But I called her Wicked Wanda. But she taught me about professionalism. I didn't know she was teaching me about professionalism at the time, but she did. And then when I changed majors, I started working at the counseling center on campus. And it was Susie Latham who was here. She's retired now. She's still in town. And Dr. Leland Fager, who was the director of the counseling center. Susie was a single mother of 2. And she was poor as a church mouse, but let me tell you, she fed me. She fed my soul and she fed my stomach. Some of the best vegetables I've ever had in my life came from Susie Latham's table. She got me addicted to Dr. Pepper, too. That's probably the worst thing she did. But she liked to drink hers hot. I never could get to that. But they took care of me. They helped me stay in school. Because there were times when it was financially so hard that I didn't know what to do. Because my parents couldn't help me because a year or 2 before I went to college, my dad was hurt at work. He fell 2 stories and landed on his back and ruptured discs and all that kind of stuff, and he was on disability. So when I say I truly had to put myself through school, thank the good Lord for Pell Grants and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't smart enough for scholarships. I didn't make enough on the ACT to get a scholarship. So I was a work-study student. And in graduate school, I was a work-study student, a graduate assistant, and I taught aerobics 4 nights a week. The Jane Fonda style. Complete with leggings and sweatband, just so you know. I was one hot working out queen, let me tell you. You wouldn't believe it looking at me now, would you? The reason that I stand here is because of those people. The reason that I have had the career that I have had is because of those people. And you'll notice that I didn't say it was the president of the university, it was a faculty member, that it was some highfalutin somebody, whatever. It was you. It was every single one of you. That's the reason why I stand here today. That's the reason why I'm humbled to be here, because I wouldn't be without you. Every single one of you make a difference every single day. And don't you ever, ever, ever let anybody tell you different. Thank you for your gift to me, because I am forever grateful. Thank you all so much.